Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of the Yinzer's at the Point podcast, where we will talk about everything Pittsburgh Penguins. Here, my name is Tyler Aaron, and you can follow my Instagram and Twitter. It is at TylerAaron65, or you can go ahead and follow the Yinzer's at the Point Instagram, which is at PenguinsFan65. And in today's episode, we will be talking about the Penguins' projected player stats, the projected records of all the teams, and what the projected standings will look like. And we will round it off with the projected first round playoff matchups, and for fun, a projected draft lottery. That's all coming up right after this drop.
Oh, slap me, silly Sydney. Good save my face with a rusty razor. Oh, Murphy and the fans are smiling like a butcher's dog. Oh, let's go hunt moose on a Harley. Oh, scratch my back with a hat. As he beats Theodore like a rated mule. Ladies and gentlemen, you got it. Elvis has just left the building.
Hello and welcome back to the first episode of the Yinzer's at the Point podcast. I am your host, Tyler Aaron, and you can follow my personal Instagram and Twitter at TylerAaron65, or you can go ahead and follow the show's Twitter. It's at PenguinsFan65, and I am recording this on Sunday, August 14th. If my voice sounds a little scratchy at all during this episode, I was at the Steeler game yesterday versus the Seahawks, and that was a lot of fun. So we're going to go right ahead and jump into this first segment. It is the Penguins' projected player stats. And a little bit of context behind this is I get a monthly magazine from the Hockey News, and I just got my new monthly magazine a few days ago, and it is the 2022-23 Ultimate Fantasy Guide. And in the magazine, it has goalies and players' projected stat lines. And I thought this would be a great first episode for the Yinzer's at the Point podcast. And so I will start reading the stat lines, and then I will give you my thoughts on them. So we'll go right ahead and get into it. They project the best player on the Penguins next year will be Jake Getsel. He will play all 82 games, score 41 goals, and 45 assists for 86 points. That sounds about right in my eyes. I think he can easily get 90 points, playing on a line with Crosby and Rust, maybe Rickard Rakell. We really only got a small sample size with him this past season. But overall, I think that's pretty much a spot-on prediction in my eyes. Next up is Sidney Crosby, playing 78 games, 36 goals, 49 assists for 85 points. At least they put him above point per game. I totally agree. Sidney Crosby is a point per game player. He always has been, and he will easily continue to be a point per game player throughout the rest of his career. Now, in third is Brian Rust, playing 77 games for 30 goals, 38 assists for 68 points. That is, in my eyes, is entirely accurate. If he plays on the same line as Crosby and Getsel, he could get more. But I would put Rust on line 1 and Rickard Rakell on line 2. But it can be an easy change, and it could help. If you play with Crosby and Getsel, you're going to score some goals. Next up on the list is Evgeny Malkin, playing 60 games, 25 goals, 40 assists for 65 points. I think he'll do better. I don't think he'll get hurt as much as he did last year. He only played half of the season last year. I think he can easily hit 70 games, but they think that he'll get hurt for a decent amount of time this season. I don't really necessarily agree with that. So, next up on the list is Chris Letang, playing 72 games, scoring 11 goals for 45 assists for a total of 56 total points. I pretty much agree with that. A little bit less than last year. And if he had a career year last year, he can easily do it again, whether he's playing now with Ty Smith or continue playing with Brian Dumoulin on the left side. So I agree like that. I can see Letang pushing 50 assists this season, maybe hitting 15 goals. I don't know. Next up on the list is Ricard Raquel, playing 72 games as well, scoring 21 goals, 25 assists for 46 points. Now that can go higher in my opinion if he plays with Crosby and Getzel, and if he plays with Jason Zucker and Evgeny Malkin on that right side, that would be perfect as well. Next up on the list is Jeff Carter, playing 75 games, scoring 15 goals for 23 assists for a total of 38 points. If we can see Jeff Carter, first half of the season, Jeff Carter, like we did last year, easily will score higher than that. If we see second half Jeff Carter this upcoming season, that point total will dwindle down a lot. All right, next one. I really don't agree with this. Kasperi Kapanen, playing 75 games, scoring 15 goals, 22 assists for 37 points. I don't agree with that. I think Kapanen should be on the fourth line, playing with Teddy Bluger and Drew O'Connor, maybe Brock McGinn down there. In my eyes, Kapanen's got to prove himself a little more if he wants to play into the top six with Malkin, even playing into the top nine with Jeff Carter. Next up, I really agree with this one. I actually think he'll do better, but it's Ty Smith, playing 75 games, 7 goals, 28 assists for 35 points. I think he'll play a lot higher at a high level of hockey if he plays on the left side with Chris Letang on the top pairing. In my eyes, that would be perfect. And I really think Ty Smith can bring a higher level than John Marino did with us, although I do miss him. I am very happy, by getting Ty Smith. We're getting euthanized players because our team is very old. And I am happy that Ty Smith is a Pittsburgh Penguin now. All right, next up we have Ryan Poehling. And they didn't give any stats, but his projected point line is 35 points. If he plays on the third line with Zucker and Jeff Carter, I could see it, but in my eyes, I don't even see him making the team this year. If he does, he'll be a fourth liner. So 35 points for a fourth liner, I don't know about that. Next up is Jason Zucker. He's only projected to have 33 points. That's about right. He'll probably be, hopefully, he stays healthy most of the year, because that could go up if he stays healthy. He did not play that long last year. Next up is Jeff Petrie. I do have his entire stats right here. They have him playing 73 games, 5 goals, 25 assists for 30 points. That can easily be higher if we can see Martin St. Louis coached Jeff Petrie. He was over point per game when Martin St. Louis came in to coach for the Montreal Canadiens, and I think he can easily be one of the best defensemen on this team this year. Next up on the list is Teddy Bluger. He is projected to have 25 points this year. I'm a very big Teddy Bluger guy. I feel like that's about right for a fourth line center. This could be his last season in a Penguin uniform. I don't know if you guys saw, but in the Jeff Petrie deal, the original trade for Jeff Petrie was Marcus Pettersson and Teddy Bluger for Jeff Petrie. As you all know, that did not happen. And I'm a very big Bluger guy. And I've always have been since he first came into the league. And so next up on the list is Brock McGinn. He's only projected to have a point total of 24 points. And I don't know if he'll play with Jeff Carter on the third line or play with Bluger on the fourth. That can entirely change. Next up on the list is Valtteri Puustinen. He's only projected to have a point total of 20 points. I actually, in my eyes, I don't see him making the team. In my eyes, I would personally rather have Ryan Pelling over him in my eyes, but I feel like he can be the first call-up if needed. And so, next up on the list is Marcus Pettersson. He'll only have a total of 20 points, and I still, in my eyes, don't see him on the Penguins roster next season. I actually see him getting dealt to another team before the season starts, but based on his contract, I feel like we are stuck with them. But, what are we going to do about it? Next up on the list is Brian Dumoulin, only having 19 points. I entirely disagree with that. I think he will make it over 20 points, especially if he's on that first line pairing with Chris Letang. He's easily a top 4 defenseman on this team. But I think this is Dumoulin's last year to prove himself, or else I think he will get dealt at the end of this season. And so next up on the list is Drake Caggiula. He's projected to have a total of 16 points. I think Caggiula will mainly play in Wilkes-Barre and will be one of our first call-ups when one of our first forwards goes down. Same with Josh Archibald, who's also projected to have 16 total points. And yeah, I believe that they'll be our first call-ups from Wilkes-Barre. Next up on the list is newly acquired defenseman Jan Ruda, who will have 13 points. That sounds about right. But if we can get Jan Ruda's level of playing that he did in Tampa Bay, I could see him cracking the top 4. I really can. Especially if Petrie doesn't perform as much as Penguin fans would like him to this season. And then next up we have Mark Friedman, who's only projected to have 11 points. He'll probably be one of the first defensemen to come in. I think he'll primarily stay in the NHL just as a healthy scratch. Same with the last player on this list, Chad Ruedel, also having 11 points. They will be easily the 2 healthy scratches for the Penguins. I don't think either one will go down to Wilkes-Barre at all. But I don't see them playing every night unless one of our defensemen gets hurt. Next up, we have the goalies. Starting off with our starter, Tristan Jarry. He's projected to have 36 wins, 21 losses, 4 overtime losses, 4 shutouts, a .917 save percentage, and a 2.51 goals against average. That is top 10 goaltending numbers. I think he's projected, if I'm correct, 7th in the NHL this upcoming season, behind your main guys of Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. And our backup, Casey DeSmith, projected to have 12 wins, 6 losses, 3 overtime losses, 1 shutout, a .913 save percentage, and a 2.69 goals against average. Casey DeSmith really hasn't underperformed at all. Usually he's always above a 9-10 save percentage. I think we'll see nothing less out of him this year. I would like to see him play more games because I really don't want to wear out Jari like we did last season. So out of those goaltending stats, the Penguins' projected record is 48, 27, and 7. That is 103 points in the Metro. And I will tell you guys in the next segment what place that would get us in the Metropolitan. Coming up next, we will talk about the projected standings and go over every NHL team's records. And that's all coming up after this break. All right, I'm back on the Yinzers at the Point podcast. I am your host, Tyler Aaron. And if you would like to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, it is at Tyler Aaron 65. Or you can follow the show's Twitter at PenguinsFan65. I'm going to go ahead and get right into the next segment of every NHL team's projected records and their in the standings. If you guys are wondering how I'm getting this, in the magazine they have all the goalies' projected stats, and I just used every team's 2 goalies to make their projected record and put them together, make a standings. So we're going to start with the Metropolitan Division. In first place is the New York Rangers with a 53-20-9 record. Good enough for 115 points. In second place is the Carolina Hurricanes with a 49-25-8 record. Good enough for 106 points. In third place is the Washington Capitals at 48-25-9, which is good enough for 105 points. In fourth place is the Pittsburgh Penguins at 48-27-7, good enough for 103 points. In fifth place is the New York Islanders at 46-29-7, which is good enough for 99 points. In sixth place is the Columbus Blue Jackets at 39-35-8, which is good enough for 85 points. And the New Jersey Devils in seventh got the same exact record at 39-35-8, which is good enough for 85 points. And in dead last is the 37-37-8 Philadelphia Flyers, good enough for 82 points. Making the playoffs out of the Metropolitan is the Rangers, who clinched the division, the Carolina Hurricanes, the Washington Capitals, and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Moving on down to the Atlantic Division. In first place, who clinches the Eastern Conference, is the Florida Panthers at 56-18-8, which is good enough for 120 points. In second place is the Tampa Bay Lightning at 54-21-7, which is good enough for 115 points. In third place is the Toronto Maple Leafs at 50-25-7, which is good enough for 107 points. In fourth place is the Boston Bruins at 47-27-8, which is good enough for 102 points. In fifth place is the Ottawa Senators at 45-29-8, which is good enough for 98 points. And sixth place is the Detroit Red Wings at 44, 29, and 9, which is good enough for 97 points. In seventh place is the Buffalo Sabres at 42, 32, and 8, which is good enough for 92 points. And in dead last is the Montreal Canadiens at 29, 46, and 7, which is good enough for 65 points. And making the playoffs in the Atlantic Division is the Florida Panthers, who win the Presidents, the Tampa Bay Lightning, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Boston Bruins. And I will give my thoughts, or I guess my 2022-23 standings predictions on where the teams will place later, probably right around the start of the season, probably in the middle of preseason. And so I'm just going to move right along into the Central Division. Clinching the Western Conference is the Colorado Avalanche with a 52, 22, and 8 record, good enough for 112 points. In second place is the St. Louis Blues at 48, 25, and 9, good enough for 105 points. In third place is the Minnesota Wild at 46, 26, and 8, good enough for 104 points. In fourth place is the Dallas Stars at 47, 27, and 8, which is 102 points. In fifth place is the Nashville Predators at 46, 29, and 7, which is good enough for 99 points. In sixth place is the Winnipeg Jets at 39, 36, and 7, which is good enough for 85 points. In seventh place is the Chicago Blackhawks at 26, 51, and 5, good enough for 57 points. And in last place is the Arizona Coyotes with a 21, 52, and 9 record, which is good enough for 51. And the teams that make the playoffs out of the Central is the Colorado Avalanche, the St. Louis Blues, the Minnesota Wild, and the Dallas Stars. And now moving on to the fourth and final division is the Pacific Division. Winning that division is the Calgary Flames, even after losing Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. They still claim their throne as the Pacific Division champions. Their final record is 49, 25, and 8, good enough for 106 points. In second place is the Edmonton Oilers with a projected record of 48, 25, and 9, good enough for 105 points. In third place is the Vancouver Canucks at 47, 28, and 7, good enough for 101 points. In fourth place is the Vegas Golden Knights at projected record of 46, 29, and 7, good enough for 99 points. In fifth is the LA Kings with a projected record of 45, 28, and 9, good enough for 99 points. In sixth place is the Anaheim Ducks with a projected record of 33, 41, and 8, good enough for 74 points. In seventh is the San Jose Sharks at 32, 42, and 8, with a projected record of 72 points. And in last is the Seattle Kraken at a projected record of 30, 46, and 6. The teams that are projected to make the playoffs in that division are the Calgary Flames, the Edmonton Oilers, the Vancouver Canucks, and the Vegas Golden Knights. And coming up in the next segment, we will look at the projected first round matchups of the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs and the projected draft lottery. So please stick around right after this. Alright, I am back for the third and final segment of the first ever episode of the Yinzer's at the Point podcast. I am your host, Tyler Aaron. If you want to follow me on social media, it is at TylerAaron65 on Instagram and Twitter. Or you can go ahead and follow the shows Instagram at PenguinsFans65. So we are going to dive right into the potential or to the projected 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs matchups. So we're going to go ahead and start in the Eastern Conference. And then I'll give you my thoughts on the Penguins series, who they're going to be playing. And so I'm going to go right ahead and dive on in. So the President's Trophy, Florida Panthers is projected to play the Boston Bruins. The Tampa Bay Lightning is projected to play the Toronto Maple Leafs, a rematch from 2022 first round. Next, we have the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the Washington Capitals, a rematch from round one against the I think it was 2018 Stanley Cup playoffs. And the one you've all been waiting for, the New York Rangers taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. I'm going to go ahead and read the West before I give my thoughts on the rematch between the Rangers and the Penguins. So in the West, the Colorado Avalanche will play the Vegas Golden Knights. The St. Louis Blues will play the Minnesota Wild, another 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs rematch. The Edmonton Oilers will face the Vancouver Canucks. And the Calgary Flames will face the Dallas Stars, another rematch from the 2022 playoffs. A lot of rematches from round one of 2022. And so the Pittsburgh Penguins are projected to play the Rangers in round one. I think the Rangers have gotten worse compared to last season, and I think we should have easily had the Rangers in 5-6 games if Crosby doesn't get hurt in Game 5. In the dumb helmet roll in Game 7, we could have easily beat the the Rangers in round one easily, and I think they got a downgrade in getting Yaroslav Halak as their backup goaltender, and I would prefer Ryan Strome over, or not Ryan Strome, Andrew Kopp over Vincent Trocheck. So they've lost a lot of pieces to that team, and I still think they'll show up a fight, but the Penguins, they bolstered their defense. Hopefully Jari will be healthy. Hopefully we don't have to go to our third string, which is now Dustin Tokarski now. So I think if this does happen, we have a legitimate shot, because I think the Rangers have gotten worse. And I know the Penguins have gotten older, but they have that playoff experience on their team. Most Ranger players do now with their deep cup run, but I think it can be easy to Pittsburgh. We haven't won a series since, Philadelphia in 2018, so it's 4 straight first-round playoff exits. It hurts. I know the Rangers usually have our number when it comes to round one playoffs, or when it comes to playing us in the playoffs, but I feel like this is going to be the year for the Penguins to go for another cup run, because we do not have much of a timeline left to, do that. Yeah, and those are my thoughts on the Penguins-Rangers projected round one matchup, but I'm going to go head off of that, and I'm going to talk about the projected draft lottery. Now, I just took these teams into a simulation, and I pretty much handpicked, so I'll give you the actual, the high percentage chances from the bottom 16 teams. So in 16th place was the Islanders, 15th was the Kings, the 14th was the Predators, the 13th was the Senators, 12 was the Red Wings, 11 was the Buffalo Sabres, 10 was the Devils, 9 was the Blue Jackets, 8 was the Jets, 7 was the Flyers, 6 was the Ducks, 5 was the Sharks. In 4th to last place was the Kraken. In 3rd to last place was the Canadiens. And 2nd was Chicago. And in dead last was Arizona. So I took them all with high odds, and I put them all in a simulation type thing with current draft lottery rules. I know they changed it from last year. So out of those results, I have the 16th overall pick going to the New York Islanders. The 15th overall pick going to the LA Kings. The 14th overall pick going to the Nashville Predators. The 13th pick going to the Ottawa Senators. The 12th overall pick going to the Detroit Red Wings. The 11th overall pick to the Buffalo Sabres. The 10th overall pick to the New Jersey Devils. The 9th overall pick to the Columbus Blue Jackets. The 8th overall pick to the Winnipeg Jets. The 7th overall pick to the Philadelphia Flyers. The 6th overall pick to the San Jose Sharks. The 5th overall pick to the Seattle Kraken. The 4th overall pick to the Chicago Blackhawks. The 3rd overall pick to the Arizona Coyotes. 2nd overall to the Anaheim Ducks. And 1st overall to the Montreal Canadiens in back-to-back years. That's what I got out of the simulation. Pretty much no changes into the top 6. The San Jose moved down from 5 to 6. Seattle moved down from 4 to 5. Chicago jumped up from Chicago fell from picks 2 to 4. Arizona fell from 1 to 3. Anaheim moved up from 6, so they got to move up 5 spots. And Montreal moved up from pick 3 to pick 1. So it looks like Bedard is going to the Canadiens, and the Ducks are getting Michkov. I'm rooting for the Ducks to get either Michkov or Bedard. I think that they would play great with Troy Terry and Trevor Zegras out there. And that is pretty much all I have for this first episode. I know this episode wasn't solely on the Penguins. It kind of was, but it kind of touched on records and stuff of all the other teams. So I don't know when I'm going to film the next episode or record it. I'll try and do 2 podcasts a week, 2 episodes a week. That's what I'm going to try and shooting for. Again, I am filming this on Sunday, August 14th. I'll try and get this out as soon as I can. But thank you guys for listening to the first ever episode of the Yinzer's at the Point podcast. I will try and get another episode out to you soon, and that is all I have for Yins. So please enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you guys all in the next episode.